Cannabis, otherwise known as dope, marijuana, weed, ganja, pot or grass, can be a trigger to schizophrenia or exacerbate other destructive mental illnesses. But a survey just published by the Richmond Fellowship, a support service for the mentally ill, shows that the general public and the subculture of regular users still don't realise cannabis can cause severe psychosis. Although illegal, it's still in the soft drug category for many users who swear by its medicinal and anti-anxiety benefits. Australians are big users of marijuana, which is now much stronger through its plant variety selection and indoor hydroponic cultivation. Mental illness is emerging as the major collateral damage from contemporary cannabis use.
It's an appalling epidemiological and social problem in the west of Sydney in particular.
An animated Greg James QC, President of the Mental Health Review Tribunal at a cannabis and mental illness symposium this week, warned about the growing danger from the cannabis psychosis link.
When people medicate, or self-medicate in that way, they tend to offset one drug with another and play uppers and downers and marijuana and grog and so forth. And the upshot of that is they develop a thing that is frequently referred to, perhaps in a generalist title, as a drug-induced psychosis or a drug psychotic syndrome. And the upshot of that is we see them as forensic patients with some catastrophe having happened.
Different. Catastrophe indeed. Ian Donnelly, now 32, seen here with his cat Patch, has been through a mental illness ordeal. He tried marijuana at age 11, became a regular user, dropped out of high school and started to suffer paranoid delusions.
Almost immediately I started getting paranoid and becoming aggressive, and I remember one day I actually attacked my older sister, and as a result of that I realised that something was wrong, but I still didn't believe it was the marijuana that was causing the problems.
It didn't have a calming or medicinal effect on you?
At first I had a euphoric effect and thought it was relaxing and almost a necessity to get through the rough times.
Did you stop after that incident with your sister?
No, I didn't. I didn't link the two instances together. Like, I didn't think the marijuana was the cause of it. I thought it was that everybody else was out against me.
Only after some jail time for breaching an AVO when he was 21 did Ian Donnelly get lucky. His paranoid behaviour was at last correctly diagnosed. He suffers schizophrenia. It is a condition that can be triggered or exacerbated by what are known as cannabinoids, particularly the chemical THC, which enters the bloodstream through the marijuana smoke ingested into the lungs.
It's a game of Russian roulette, and like on that first hand, I copped the bullet.
Ian Donnelly now knows he was particularly vulnerable because some older members of his family suffered forms of mental illness.
If you've got a predisposition like mental illness in the family line, marijuana will trigger it. It will turn on that switch that you may not be aware of it. You may not know your family history, but if you've got a history of schizophrenia or mental illness of any kind in your family, marijuana and other drugs will trigger it off.
Growers are growing high THC potency plants deliberately for the market, which is changing that ratio and causing perhaps more symptoms of psychosis.
Professor Jan Copeland of the National Cannabis Prevention and Information Centre says the incidence of schizophrenia would be significantly diminished if cannabis could be taken out of the chemistry of the brains of young people.
We think that between 8 and 14% of episodes of schizophrenia would be eradicated if there was no cannabis use in the community.
8 and 14?
Somewhere between 8 and 14. In Sweden it was decided that it was probably about 14, in the UK and Europe about 8. So there hasn't been enough estimates, but that's about the ballpark figure.
Marijuana's everywhere. It's not just the affluent. It's through the west of Sydney, through the south of Sydney. There are kids with nothing else to do but to hit the bong. And they're growing to mental health problems. If we sat down and did an analysis of people who came to us, whether because they turned to the cannabis or they started with the cannabis, it didn't matter, who came to us who haven't been taking cannabis while suffering from mental illness, the numbers would be minuscule. And it's the experience of all 100 of my members. It is a very, very big problem. It's not admitted as such. It has the consequence that if you can take out the cannabis use, you can cut down on the other drug use.
I was just very hyperactive, risk-taking, all the symptoms you'd expect from someone with ADHD. And they put me on dexamphetamine when I was 18, and that wasn't the right medication for me, as we later found out. That went for about 12 years. The ADHD medication fueled my need for marijuana. I wanted to smoke it constantly because I was hyper from the medication and I could handle a whole heap more than I normally would be able to. And the more I smoked, the more addicted I became, and the more I needed it and depended on it.
Amanda Goodwin, now 28, started smoking dope innocently, experimentally at 14. Later in her teens, she started to use regularly. She too dropped out of high school. She held a variety of waitressing and other jobs over the years. While she didn't get into trouble with the police, at 18 she was medicated for ADHD. You had a family history of mental illness?
Yeah, my father was diagnosed with bipolar at 43.
Her ADHD diagnosis was wrong. The correct diagnosis, picked up by an experienced psychiatrist, is, like her father's, bipolar disorder.
We slowly went off it, and once I was off it, everything started to fall back